The city of Calgary was in an interesting position entering 2023. The cost of living crisis was impacting everyone, all while the city was hoping to prepare for the future. Mayor Jyoti Gondek sat down with City News for our annual year-end chat, which began with her sharing what she was most proud of in 2023.
I would say it's probably two moments that stand out for me. When Council passed our housing strategy and we showed Calgarians that we want everyone to be able to live with dignity, and then when we passed the budget that actually has the funding in place to support that strategy.
What was the biggest challenge for you in 2023?
I would say the biggest thing that faced us was the incredible amount of vulnerability that we're seeing in our city. And we talk about a housing crisis, but it's not just housing. It's the idea of people having the supports that they need in their life, whether they're coping with a disability or whether, it's job loss or poverty or mental health and addictions. You have to have supports around an individual. Housing first makes sense, but then with housing come all of the other things. And so I think the realization for council that we need a housing strategy that is also inclusive of all the other supports that people need was really critical.
Getting back into cost of living crisis, council approved a property tax hike this year after taxes were already slated to go up. What's your message to Calgarians who are frustrated about this? We
asked administration very honestly, are there programs or services that are suffering right now? And we found out that many of our playgrounds are on a 100-year life cycle maintenance program. We found out that many of our buildings simply do not have the funding to get out of a state of disrepair. We found out that we are not keeping up with paving of pathways and sidewalks in many places in the city. We found out that all of those cuts were actually to our detriment. And so we asked the question, what's the gap? And then we further learned that each year we have a $311 million funding gap because provincial and federal governments over time have trickled down responsibilities to us as a municipality. And I'm not trying to point fingers or lay blame. What I'm saying is that over the years, all of us not paying attention to who was taking on ownership of certain services has led to a situation where we're the order of government with the least amount of financial tools. When the only certainty of revenue that we have is property tax, it's really difficult for us to be the one that is executing on all the programming. So I would point out to everyone that we invested in transit, we invested in public safety, and we invested in housing. All three of those areas should be shared responsibilities.
One of the other big investments the city made this year is, of course, to the event center. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Is now the right time to be looking into something like that when there's an affordability crisis?
The success of East Village shows us that there is ample opportunity to do some pretty creative things on the east side of downtown. And with the event center and arena in tandem with the BMO Convention Center, we've sent a very clear signal to market that this will be a culture and entertainment district that you should invest in. So we will now be able to draw commercial investment, we will be drawing hotel interest, we'll be able to build out that whole area. And the benefit to all Calgarians is when that whole area gets built out, the property taxes that are going to be generated from that fulsome district and that whole area will trickle back to everyone in the city.
Transit safety, I know that's been a hot topic this year. It seems a lot of the city's plan is to add peace officers, add more enforcement. Why is that the plan of adding enforcement to deal with this issue?
So there's really two components to it. Firstly, there's people that are in crisis, and you have to provide a compassionate response. And so our distress teams, our crisis intervention teams, healthcare professionals that are able to be dispatched to those kinds of calls are really the ones that are best suited to deal with that situation. And then there's a whole other side of it where there is actually criminal activity. There's violence, there's organized crime. That needs to be dealt with by the enforcement experts, the Calgary Police Service. Now, because we have Calgary Police Service working with peace officers and transit officers, as well as distress teams, we've got a more integrated response model, and that gives us the better ability to dispatch the resources where they're needed.
Thank you so much for chatting with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.